Part 1. Arrival and Questions. The morning train's whistle echoed across the Nebraska plains as Cole stepped onto the wooden platform at Millerville, his gray eyes immediately cataloging the bustling railroad town that had grown around the transcontinental line. Dust swirled from the constant traffic of freight wagons and passengers, while the rhythmic clicking of telegraph keys provided a steady backdrop to the organized chaos of frontier commerce. Cole adjusted his leather satchel and walked toward the small wooden building marked Telegraph Office, noting the precise organization of the train schedules posted outside and the clean windows that suggested someone took pride in their work. The railroad company had sent him to investigate reports of missing cargo shipments, and the telegraph operator would be his first source of communication records. Inside the cramped office, a young man bent over the telegraph key, transcribing an incoming message with rapid, precise strokes. Cole noticed immediately the unusual neatness of the workspace. No tobacco stains, no scattered papers, and an attention to detail that seemed almost feminine in its thoroughness. "Excuse me," Cole said, removing his hat respectfully. "I'm Cole Harrison, railroad detective. I'll need to review recent telegraph traffic for my investigation." The operator looked up, revealing sharp green eyes and a clean-shaven face that seemed younger than his voice suggested. "I'm Alex Morgan," he replied, his tone carefully modulated to a lower register. "What kind of investigation requires telegraph records?" "Missing cargo shipments," Cole explained, studying the young man's reaction. "The company suspects coordination between thieves, possibly using telegraph communications to time their activities." Alex's hand trembled slightly as he reached for a file of message records, a reaction Cole filed away for future consideration. "These are the commercial messages from the past month," Alex said, his voice betraying none of the nervousness his gesture had revealed. Cole spread the messages across the small desk, immediately impressed by the meticulous organization and clear handwriting. "You keep excellent records," he observed. "Most telegraph operators I've worked with aren't nearly this systematic." "Accuracy prevents problems," Alex replied, moving to stand beside Cole as they reviewed the documents. One misplaced decimal in a shipping order can cost the railroad thousands of dollars. Standing close enough to smell the faint scent of soap and something indefinably clean about the telegraph operator, Cole found himself distracted by details that didn't quite fit his expectations. The young man's hands were calloused from telegraph work, but unusually clean. His clothes pressed despite the frontier setting, and his speech patterns suggested education beyond what most frontier workers possessed. "Here," Alex said, pointing to a series of messages sent just before reported thefts. "These shipping notifications went out 3 days before each missing cargo report. Someone with access to this information would know exactly which trains were carrying valuable freight." Cole studied the pattern Alex had identified, recognizing immediately that the telegraph operator possessed both the intelligence and observational skills that would make him invaluable to the investigation. "That's exactly what I was looking for," he said with genuine appreciation. "Would you mind if I used your office as a base of operations while I'm in town?" Alex hesitated, clearly uncomfortable with the prospect of prolonged scrutiny. "How long do you expect your investigation to take?" "Several weeks, depending on what I find," Cole replied, noting the barely concealed anxiety in the young man's expression. "I'll try not to interfere with your regular work." "Of course," Alex said, though his nervous energy suggested this arrangement created complications Cole didn't understand. "I'll provide whatever assistance you need." As Cole settled into the uncomfortable wooden chair across from the telegraph desk, he found himself studying his reluctant host with the trained eye of someone paid to notice inconsistencies. Something about Alex Morgan didn't quite add up, but Cole couldn't yet identify what exactly was bothering him about the competent, helpful telegraph operator who seemed genuinely committed to solving the railroad's problems. Part 2. Partnership and Proximity. 3 days into his investigation, Cole had established a routine of arriving at the Telegraph office each morning with coffee and questions about recent message traffic. Alex proved invaluable in identifying communication patterns and timing irregularities that might indicate criminal coordination, though Cole noticed his assistant's nervous energy increased with each day of close collaboration. "This message came through Tuesday night," Alex said, sliding a transcribed telegram across the desk. "Shipping manifest for a cargo train that was robbed Thursday morning near Platte Creek." Cole studied the message, noting the detailed information about valuable freight that would make the train an attractive target. "Who had access to this information besides you?" "The depot master, the freight supervisor, and whoever sent the original shipping order from Omaha," Alex replied, unconsciously tucking a strand of hair that had escaped from under his cap. "But someone would need to relay the information to the thieves quickly. Could that relay have gone through Telegraph communications we haven't seen?" Cole asked, appreciating how easily Alex followed his investigative reasoning. "Possibly," Alex said thoughtfully. "Private telegrams aren't recorded in the official files. Someone could send personal messages that actually contained coded information about shipments." Cole leaned back in his chair, impressed once again by Alex's quick understanding of both technical and criminal possibilities. Over the past 3 days, he'd come to rely on the Telegraph operator's insights and found himself looking forward to their morning conversations about more than just the investigation. "You seem to know quite a bit about criminal thinking," Cole observed with gentle humor. "Should I be suspicious of my most helpful witness?" Alex's face flushed slightly, a reaction that seemed excessive for such a mild joke. "I read crime novels when business is slow," he said quickly. "They provide interesting perspectives on criminal methodology." "Crime novels," Cole repeated with amusement. "That explains your vocabulary. Most frontier workers don't use words like methodology in casual conversation. Education shouldn't be wasted just because someone works with their hands," Alex replied with more passion than the comment warranted, then immediately looked embarrassed by his outburst. Cole found himself studying Alex's face with increased interest, noting the delicate bone structure that seemed almost feminine despite the masculine clothing and careful posture. "You're right, of course. I apologize if I sounded condescending." "You didn't," Alex said softly, meeting Cole's eyes briefly before looking away. "I'm just sensitive about assumptions people make based on occupation or location." The moment of vulnerability created an unexpected intimacy between them, and Cole realized his feelings toward the Telegraph operator had evolved beyond professional appreciation. Alex's intelligence, dedication, and careful consideration of others' feelings attracted him in ways that had nothing to do with the investigation. "Alex," Cole said carefully, "would you be interested in joining me for dinner at the hotel tonight? I'd like to discuss the case away from the office, and I've been eating alone since I arrived." Alex's expression showed a mixture of longing and panic that puzzled Cole. "I don't think that would be appropriate," he said finally. "People might misunderstand a social relationship between us." "Misunderstand how?" Cole asked, genuinely confused by the concern. "Small towns generate gossip about any unusual friendships," Alex replied evasively. "I prefer to keep my personal life separate from work." Cole accepted the refusal with disappointment, but couldn't shake the feeling that Alex's reasons went deeper than simple privacy concerns. The Telegraph operator's careful boundaries and nervous reactions suggested secrets that extended beyond mere shyness or social awkwardness. That evening, as Cole ate dinner alone at the hotel, he found himself replaying their conversations and cataloging the small inconsistencies that had been accumulating. Alex's unusually clean appearance, careful speech patterns, and emotional reactions to seemingly innocent comments created a puzzle that his detective training wouldn't let him ignore. When he returned to the Telegraph office the next morning, Alex greeted him with coffee and a warm smile that made Cole's chest tighten with unexpected emotion. Whatever secrets the young man was keeping, Cole found himself hoping the investigation would provide opportunities to understand both the criminal conspiracy and the person who'd become far more important to him than professional duty should allow. Part 3. Deepening Secrets. 2 weeks into their partnership, Cole and Alex had discovered a clear pattern linking Telegraph communications to cargo thefts, but their investigation had also created an emotional connection that complicated both their professional focus and Alex's carefully maintained disguise. "The timing is too precise to be coincidental," Alex said, spreading message records across the desk in chronological order. "Every theft occurred exactly 48 hours after shipping information was transmitted through our office." Cole studied the pattern, noting how Alex's organizational skills had made the connection visible in ways that would have taken him days to discover alone. "Which means our thief has access to these records and a reliable method of communicating with the robbery teams. More than that," Alex continued, his voice gaining confidence as he outlined his theory. "The locations chosen for the robberies suggest detailed knowledge of railroad schedules and security protocols. This isn't random opportunism, it's a coordinated operation." Their late evening work sessions had become Cole's favorite part of each day, watching Alex's intelligence shine as he connected seemingly unrelated pieces of information. But Cole had also begun noticing details that raised questions about his partner's background and circumstances. "Alex," Cole said during a pause in their analysis, "you mentioned sending money to family back east. What kind of family obligations require most of your salary?" Alex's hand stilled on the telegraph key he'd been absently adjusting. "Medical expenses," he said carefully. "Family members need ongoing care that's expensive." "That's commendable," Cole replied, noting how Alex's voice had become more guarded. "It can't be easy supporting others on a telegraph operator's wages." "We do what we must for people we love," Alex said simply, but Cole caught the underlying strain in his voice. When Alex stood to retrieve additional files from the cabinet, Cole noticed how he moved with unconscious grace that seemed inconsistent with the masculine persona he projected. Small gestures, the way he arranged papers, his careful attention to cleanliness, even his precise handwriting, created an accumulating impression of someone performing a role rather than living naturally. "Cole," Alex said suddenly, turning from the file cabinet with obvious internal struggle. "If someone you cared about had been forced to make difficult choices for survival, would you judge them harshly for deception?" The question carried such weight that Cole set down his coffee and gave Alex his full attention. "That would depend on the nature of the deception and the circumstances that made it necessary." What if the deception involved identity, pretending to be someone different in order to earn a living and protect family? Cole's detective instincts immediately connected Alex's hypothetical question to his own observations about inconsistencies in the young man's presentation. "I'd want to understand why such extreme measures seemed necessary," he said carefully, "and whether the person trusted me enough to explain their circumstances." Alex's green eyes searched Cole's face with desperate intensity. "And if that explanation revealed that everything you thought you knew about them was false? Then I'd hope they'd give me the chance to know who they really were," Cole replied, his voice gentle with understanding that he was being offered something precious and fragile. Before Alex could respond, the telegraph key began chattering with an incoming message. As he transcribed the communication, Cole watched his partner's face transform with alarm. "This is it," Alex said urgently. "Tomorrow night's eastbound freight train. 3 cars of silver ore and manufactured goods. If our pattern holds, this train will be robbed Friday morning." Cole felt the familiar rush of a case breaking open, but also recognized that their investigation had reached a critical point where action would be required. "We need to coordinate with railroad security and local law enforcement." "Cole," Alex said, his voice tight with worry, "if we're right about this robbery, the people involved will know their communication system has been compromised. They'll look for who provided the information. The implication hung between them, that solving the case might put Alex in danger from the criminal conspiracy they'd been investigating." Cole realized that his feelings for the telegraph operator had evolved far beyond professional respect. and the thought of Alex being threatened created a protective rage he hadn't expected. "Nothing will happen to you," Cole said with quiet intensity. "I won't let anyone hurt you because of this investigation." Alex's expression showed both gratitude and something that looked like heartbreak. "You don't understand the complications, Cole. There are things about my situation that make protection difficult." "Then help me understand," Cole said, moving closer to Alex's chair. "Trust me with whatever you're afraid to tell me." For a moment, Alex looked like he might finally reveal the secrets he'd been guarding. But the telegraph key resumed its urgent chattering, and the moment was lost as duty called them back to the investigation that was rapidly approaching its dangerous conclusion. Part 4. Truth and Consequences. The robbery attempt came exactly as their analysis had predicted, but the coordinated response Cole had arranged with railroad security resulted in a violent confrontation at the freight yards that left Alex injured and her carefully maintained disguise in ruins. Cole found Alex behind a stack of lumber where she'd taken shelter during the gunfight, blood seeping through her shirt from a graze across her ribs. In the urgency of treating her wound, the binding that had concealed her feminine shape became visible, and Cole's hands stilled as the truth he'd been unconsciously suspecting finally became undeniable. "Alex," he said softly, meeting her frightened green eyes as he continued applying pressure to stop the bleeding. "Alexandra?" "Alexandra Catherine Morgan," she confirmed, her voice shaking with pain and the terror of discovery. "I'm sorry, Cole. I'm so sorry for lying to you." Cole's mind raced through all the small details that now made perfect sense. The clean workspace, the careful speech patterns, the nervous reactions to personal questions, and the feminine grace she'd tried so hard to disguise. "How long have you been living as Alex?" 8 months, Alexandra replied, wincing as he secured the bandage around her ribs. "Since I left Denver to escape an arranged marriage to a man who wanted my father's telegraph equipment and expertise to settle debts." "And your family obligations?" Cole asked, helping her sit more comfortably against the lumber pile. "My mother's in a Denver boarding house, sick with consumption. She believes I'm working as a governess for a railroad family. The money I send pays for her medicine and care." Cole absorbed this information while processing his own emotional reactions. Admiration for her courage, anger at the circumstances that had forced such deception, and a deeper understanding of why she'd seemed so frightened of discovery. "Alexandra," he said carefully, "what happens now, when the railroad officials learn about this robbery attempt and your role in stopping it?" "I lose everything," she said simply, tears beginning to flow despite her efforts at control. "My position, my income, my ability to care for my mother. No one will hire a woman who's been masquerading as a man, and I can't return to Denver without facing that marriage arrangement." Cole felt his protective instincts surge as he realized the impossible situation Alexandra faced. Her courage in maintaining her disguise and her skill in helping solve the robbery case deserved better than the ruin that discovery would bring. "That's not going to happen," Cole said with quiet determination. "The railroad company owes you a debt for helping break up this theft ring. I'll make sure they understand your value as an employee." "Cole, you don't understand how these things work," Alexandra protested. "Social conventions can be changed by people willing to challenge them," Cole interrupted firmly. "You've proven your competence and integrity. I won't let bureaucratic prejudice destroy your life." Alexandra studied his face with wonder and disbelief. "You're not disgusted by my deception, angry that I lied to you?" "I'm angry at a world that forced you to choose between survival and honesty," Cole replied. "But I'm not angry at you for making the choice that protected your family and gave you independence." As railroad officials and local law enforcement arrived to deal with the captured thieves, Cole made a decision that would shape both their futures. Standing protectively beside Alexandra as she answered questions about the investigation, he introduced her as his special consultant whose expertise had been crucial to solving the case. When the depot master questioned a woman's presence in a male-dominated workplace, Cole's response was firm and professional. Miss Morgan's telegraph skills and analytical abilities are exactly what the railroad needs. I'll be recommending her for permanent employment in whatever capacity best uses her talents. Alexandra's grateful smile told Cole that she understood he was offering more than just professional protection. He was offering partnership in building a future that honored both her capabilities and their growing love. Part 5. New Foundations. 3 months after the robbery investigation concluded, Alexandra had successfully transitioned to working openly as the railroad's first female telegraph supervisor, with Cole's recommendation and the company's recognition of her proven abilities creating a precedent that protected her position. The Denver office wants to know if you'll consider training other women telegraph operators, Cole said, entering the expanded telegraph office where Alexandra now managed communications for the entire regional network. That depends, Alexandra replied, looking up from the complex scheduling charts that had become part of her new responsibilities. Will you be staying in Nebraska to continue working with the Railroad Security Division? I've accepted a permanent position based here in Millerville, Cole confirmed, settling into the chair across from her desk that had become as familiar as his own office. Someone needs to coordinate security for this section of the line, and I've discovered I prefer working with reliable partners. Alexandra's smile carried both professional satisfaction and personal warmth. Reliable partners who don't keep major secrets from each other? Partners who trust each other enough to share the truth, Cole corrected gently, even when that truth is complicated or difficult. Their relationship had evolved carefully over the months since her identity was revealed, building on the foundation of mutual respect and intellectual compatibility they'd established during the investigation. Cole's acceptance of her unconventional choices and his support during her professional transition had created a deep emotional bond that transcended the dramatic circumstances of their first meeting. Cole, Alexandra said, organizing her papers with the precise movements he'd learned to associate with her thoughtful consideration of important matters. I received a letter from my mother yesterday. Her health has improved significantly with the better medical care I've been able to provide. That's wonderful news, Cole replied, understanding that Alexandra's relief about her mother's condition represented the resolution of the crisis that had originally driven her to assume her false identity. She wants to visit me here in Millerville, Alexandra continued, her tone carrying both excitement and nervousness. To meet the railroad family I've been writing about, and to see what kind of life I've built for myself. Cole recognized the significance of this development, that Alexandra was ready to share her real life and relationship with the family she'd been protecting through her deception. How do you want to handle her visit? Honestly, Alexandra said with the decisive tone that had made her so effective in her work. She deserves to know the truth about my choices and my circumstances, including my feelings for you. And what will you tell her about us? Cole asked, knowing that this conversation would determine the direction of their future together. Alexandra met his eyes directly, her expression showing the confidence she'd gained through months of living authentically. That I've found a partner who values my intelligence and supports my independence, who accepts my past choices and wants to build a future based on mutual respect and love. Is that what we're building? Cole asked softly, though her answer was already visible in her smile. If you're willing to court a woman whose idea of romance involves telegraph schedules and criminal investigations, Alexandra replied with gentle humor. I'm willing to build whatever kind of life makes you happy, Cole said, reaching across the desk to take her hand. Whether that involves expanding your telegraph training program, coordinating more security investigations, or anything else you dream of accomplishing. 6 months later, as they stood together on the train platform watching Alexandra's mother arrive for her first visit to Nebraska, Cole reflected on how their unusual courtship had created exactly the kind of partnership he'd never known he wanted. Alexandra had found professional success and personal happiness without sacrificing the independence she'd fought so hard to achieve, while Cole had discovered that the best investigations led not just to solved cases, but to finding the person who made everything else worthwhile. "Ready to meet my mother as the man I intend to marry?" Alexandra asked, straightening Cole's tie with familiar affection. "Ready to meet the woman who raised someone brave enough to create her own life?" Cole replied, understanding that their future would be built on the same foundation of honesty, courage, and mutual support that had carried them through their unconventional beginning.